Hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us on this session of Real Estate Connect. RE Connect have been developing, and here we are in a new one. And I hope that this grows bigger and bigger. Thank you for all who's attending, for all who's speaking, for the group and the team behind it, and UNISU. And I hope that this festival, if I can call it so, grows bigger and more impactful with time. For all those who have been following me, following my conferences as well as my write-ups and reading some of my publications, you probably have understood today my thoughts on real estate 6.0, my concept that I've come up with a few years ago, and I regard as the future of the asset class. I hope this makes sense to you as well. We've discussed everything from tokenization, passing through urbanization, community development, and getting to DeFi. And at the same time, we've discussed the ability of regulators and legislators to regulate and create the right legislation to allow better adoption, and while stakeholders need as well to adapt and adopt technology for the betterment of everyone. I'm so overwhelmed as well, by the way, with the discussion that happens post each session. We always have a kind of debate, if I would say, a big discussion about every point, because some people agree, disagree with it, and I love that. It's so healthy. It adds material and content to all what we discuss, because knowledge is compounding. It's not eliminating. So the knowledge of tomorrow will compound over the knowledge of yesterday, and your knowledge will compound over mine, and we will be able to make more sense of my knowledge with the assistance and the support of your knowledge. Today we'll be discussing about the big impact, the impact of tokenization and DeFi and integration within that asset class, and the impact of tokenization and DeFi on real estate in general, real estate transactions, real estate cities. Now, we will not be going in details through logistics. What we'll be going into details is two things that every one of you and us cares so much about. Where first is, how does it make sense financially? Because yes, technology is great, but it needs to make financial sense. One. Two, we've covered before some of the risks that you would be afraid of if you're a regulator in a market when it comes to DeFi, when it comes to tokenization. We will discuss today, if I would say, the challenges and the solutions that are possible, or the challenges and the other side of the story. The ability of ours to utilize technology perfectly without us missing any part of the community protection that we would like to have, even protectionism that some regulators would like to play. So tech does not stop you from having any of those. Tech empowers you and allows you to utilize it the way you want. Yes, it's more transparent. Can you make it non-transparent? Probably you could get layers of non-transparency within. I'm not sure why anyone would in our new age, but you could. So everything you used to do with a pen and a paper in a land department or a land registry, you're able to do on the chain. The difference is it's much more than automated. It's encrypted. It's available for everyone in a secure manner, and security is a big issue that is talked about every time we talk tokenization, we talk DeFi, we talk the digital world, we talk blockchain. It's not our subject today, but it's a big subject. But I'm sure every single risk of those have solutions. Otherwise, banking as it is today wouldn't have existed. And here I come to development of ideas and change with time, and how change happens, disruptors and disruptions. So look at something like Airbnb. Now, if Marriott, one of the biggest hotel groups in the world, if not the biggest, if Marriott would have adopted or came up maybe with Airbnb, although a big player, a monster player, has a difficulty coming up with disruptions, and big players that do disrupt their own tech. Maybe I could say Google does that, excels and creates a better future every day. However, in general, the big stakeholders in an industry are not the disruptors. The disruptors are companies and people who come from outside the industry, and they look at the industry and say, are you serious? Is this how you do it? And I've been discussing, by the way, this with a friend a few days ago, and those are his exact works. He's in the, or used to be in the insurance and investments industry, and who disrupted that business and that whole industry is not someone from the insurance industry, is someone from outside the industry. Now, so Airbnb comes in and wants to transform the hotel booking and stays sector of the industry. Marriott, if accepted that transformation, would have been able to build another Airbnb or buy an Airbnb for pennies to what it's worth today, and develop that to become the biggest shareholder in that side of the market. Now, Marriott didn't, because Marriott refused initially, similar to all other big players, refused initially to accept that as the future. And they had a system that's working, and they said, let's keep it working. Now, I'm not sure if Marriott owns any sections, part of Airbnb, I doubt it. But because somebody will come up and say, Marriott does own part of Airbnb. Marriott could have owned Airbnb. It could be Marriott, Starwoods, any one of the big players could have owned that. Now, that happened also in the car industry. Ford or GM Motors should have owned Tesla, or should have created their own Tesla. Now, they only came on board after that idea was proven, after that idea was confirmed, and after that idea was tested. And then they said, yes, let's try to jump on board now. They gave the lead to someone else. I'm sure every business leader who's taken such a choice regrets it. Now, a business leader will tell me I can't jump on every new idea. And I say, I agree. Yet there are the few that make so much sense, and the most knowledgeable about the industry, who should see the sense in them, supposedly is us who are involved in the industry, although that doesn't happen all the time. Now, that disruption is something that happens all the time. That change happens all the time. You living as a stakeholder in that industry can have few options. And we regularly hate it. Now, why do we hate it? Mostly because we don't understand it. And thus, books like Who Moved My Cheese, I advise everyone to read it. Who Moved My Cheese, and many other books similar to it, but Who Moved My Cheese in the most simplistic, I call it the impossible simplicity, in describing and explaining to everyone how people hate change, and what happens when you hate change, and when you resist change, and what happens when you embrace change. So you hate change mostly because you don't know it, you don't understand it. So I advise you to get to understand it. Now, people have options, and stakeholders, land registries, land departments, regulators, financial regulators today, because when we talk tokenization, financial regulators jump into the play as well. Although it's real estate tokenization, but they see tokens as securities today. And that's a big debate, and we'll talk about it today. All of those counterparts that should collaborate for the success of the industry and the betterment of the whole industry, and mostly the consumer, all of them resist change for different reasons. One of them resists change because they don't understand it and they don't believe it's coming. So they don't they don't understand it. It's not that they don't understand it. They probably technically do understand it, but they don't understand the potential of it. And they don't believe that it will happen. They don't believe that that would be the future. Or they believe that it may be something similar to it, maybe the future in a long time. And that's the first reason. The second option you have when you see change is to ignore it, to say, you know what, it doesn't matter to me. My market is doing well. If you're a regulator, you'll say, I'm collecting so much of the stamp duty and transfer fees and all of those fees, and my market is very liquid and everything is cool. Why would I need to disrupt that? A machine that's working. Now, you need to. And now we'll talk why. The third option is when a big player, one of the biggest in the world, Related in the US or Amar in Dubai, or one of the giant players comes up and says, you know what, let me see them test it and it works, and then I can jump on it. Now, let me ask you the question. Are you sure you want someone to test a module like Airbnb in your industry, and then you only want to adopt it if it proved that it's a success and the market have embraced it already? Are you sure you want your biggest competitor to be the first to do that? Or is it worth your time, effort, energy, and money to go out today, out of your comfort zone, out of what you've done for the past few hundreds of years, to do something new that can put you in a pioneering position? Give it a thought. Now, in general, if you're a land registry, if you're a land department, if you're a financial regulator, you have threats. We talked about the fear of losing on income, of losing on the stamp duty, on the transfer fees, on the cost of transacting properties the traditional way. How about if I told you, I promise you, I can demonstrate in less than 5 minutes for you, one-on-one, that you will make as much but more money in the short, medium, and long term from that. So the monetary side of it will not be affected negatively. On the contrary, it will be affected positively. That's item number one. If you're afraid as a land department, as a regulator, of the impact on communities, how do you feel would it impact communities if people were able to buy as much as they are able to afford of a property, rather than overextend themselves to purchase the whole of a property that's possible today, that mostly they can't afford, and live for years just trying to service that liability rather than it being an asset? How about if I tell you that everyone, including the tenant in a property, and this is what allows stability and bigger stability for an environment, even the tenant can buy a share in the property he lives in and subsidizes or makes income of the payments that he is doing. So he becomes partly his own tenant. And then he can increase this part ownership by buying more tokens with time in an affordable way without putting himself under jeopardy or under risk or under stress. Financial stress, guys, breaks families. Financial stress breaks emotional well-beings. And that is a source usually of financial stress that can be sorted in a very easy way, this way. How about if I tell you that you can still have the restrictions that you would want over a market, the percentage of ownership in a market, the quota, if you have a quota, you're a country that has a quota for foreigners, or how could a foreigner buy? You can have all of those restrictions on. You can have restrictions to avoid or eliminate or reduce speculation, although we are in a speculative industry. Real estate is a speculative asset. Yet you can still curb it as much but more whenever it's all on chain. So the risks that you see are actually benefits in the hiding. Let's talk more about that. You're a financial regulator. A token to you is a security. You want to regulate it in a certain way. Let me ask you a question here. What do you prefer? Do you prefer that the retail investor that you are targeting to help and protect and reduce the risks on, or mitigate the risks on, or explain the risks on, do you think that he'll be better off paying over the value of an asset today because companies that are trying to comply with the regulation you have put in place, thankfully, that's not bad, yeah? You're trying to embrace the future, yet it's not up to that level yet. So those parties that are trying to do exactly what the right thing is, tokenize, put the property out in tokens or in shares or in fractions or in stakes, or call it whatever you want to call it, need to add so much levels of cost, because those tranches of cost each relate to a piece of regulation, just for them to comply with the regulation you've put in place today? Or are we better off doing things faster and regulating for those guys to be able to sell a product with the least amount of cost possible? And part of being on-chain, part of blockchain and DeFi and the ability to tokenize is the increased efficiency, which we're losing most of in the process currently. So how about it, if you're a financial regulator, to look at that in an unconventional way? Let me tell you something. There is an Uber approach. Do you know the Uber approach? I'm sure you do. The ability to bulldoze in the market. Uber for long believed that the regulations in every market have not been written with the futuristic module of transportation in mind, with their module of transportation in mind. So they did it and then lived with the repercussions or dealt with them, lobbied against them. Now that's much more difficult in an industry that touches people's hearts and lives, and where a financial regulator is involved, because you are powerful guys. So how about, rather than us forcing people to either add those slices of cost that the consumer is paying at the end of the day, which does not limit his risk or reduce it, it actually increases his risk because he's buying an overvalued asset. Or on the other hand, and by the way, I'm sure that people will come up who own such platforms today and say that, oh, that's not true. I would tell you, I love what you're doing, guys, and I'm all support to what you're doing, because you're paving the way for everyone, and you're saying, let me do it in the doable way today until I get there. Yet, what I'm currently advocating for is for you to be able to do something better for you and people. So you will still be profitable and monetizable the right way, yet the consumer will be happier in the long run. So you wouldn't be in a trap where rentals have gone down. To eliminate that, you need to collect from those people money just to service that property. So that's a totally different story, but I have that discussion so often. So when we're talking about the ability of us to embrace the Ubers of the world, as a regulator, as a financial regulator, you can still have the restrictions that you want to protect retail investors, yet without dealing with the token as a security. Not because I don't want it to be dealt with as security, because when you run with me till the end of this session, you will see that what I want is it to be dealt with as security. What I want is it to be traded on the open market. I want a global stock market, or similar to that in the token world. So a global tokens market. I live in a, by the way, guys, I live in a progressive city. I live in Dubai, and we're probably so lucky with a visionary set of leaders and with amazing will to change and embrace the future. And our regulators are always, although we're a young city with young history, we don't have 400 years of regulating and legislating here, yet we're building up towards that with a tremendous acceleration. So imagine that with me, and you'll say I'm a dreamer. I'm not a dreamer. I am a dreamer, but here I'm not dreaming. Imagine this with me. Imagine Dubai coming up tomorrow or the day after with something called Dubai Global Tokens Market, DGTM. So a DGTM, a Dubai Global Tokens Market, which allows people to trade tokens openly, online, all the time, wherever they are in the world, similar to how we have DFM today, Dubai Financial Market. And we're not far from that, probably. Now, do I know that it's happening? No, I don't, but I hope that it would happen. And I hope that our city, the city I live in and embrace the future of, gets into that first before anyone else. By the way, it's not far in every part of the world. The Swiss stock market regulator, the Swiss regulator, the regulatory body in Switzerland, which is one of the most conservative supposedly in the world, have given around a week or two ago the go-ahead to the Switzerland stock market to launch a Switzerland digital or cryptocurrency market. And that's huge. That is huge. That's a giant thing from a regulator. And this will accelerate. Let me tell you how will it accelerate and how fast will it accelerate. Because many of the people we talk to on a daily basis think that we're so far away from anything meaningful in that world to happen. Guys, acceleration is the answer. The digital currency world grew from, as a market cap, from few millions of dollars to few trillions in a blink. You just blinked and it happened. So we're just few blinks away from all of this we're talking about to happen. The rate of acceleration is huge, and rate of development is huge, and it will happen. So if you're a regulator, be the pioneer rather than the follower. It will pay back big time. And if you want to be at the forefront of technology and innovation in real estate, and if your economy depends on real estate, talk real estate of tomorrow, real estate 6.0. Talk real estate that does really change people's lives, where my father is able to buy a property while he's in Mount Lebanon today, in Mayfair, London, and another in New York, another in Dubai, another in Houston, another in Beijing, for a sum of $25,000 in total. And own those pieces of real estate in a transparent. He is able to see the live transactions, similar, and we've talked about this before. Please go to the previous conferences, either the Reconnect conferences or other conferences that I've done, and I've talked in detail about those. How can that happen on the ground while protecting consumers and while protecting the retail investor and while protecting all stakeholders? So as a regulator, you need to do that. Now, let's go to the developers, stakeholders who are involved and who want to fund their projects and the future projects and want to sell their projects when they're built. Why should you jump into tokenization today if it's not fully adopted? You should jump into tokenization because once it happens, it most probably is too late for you to be able to create the same impact with as little as it would take you today. It will need much more muscle. You'd need to be a Marriott at that time to be able to impact the industry, because it's a I would say, a totally different industry, a future of an industry that Airbnb created and the likes. So jump on today, logically, sit with someone who knows, let them explain to you beyond the trends of crypto, and it booms and we are all excited and then it crashes and we're not. That's not our market, that's not our business. Our business is your property sold to that buyer in a more transparent way, getting you a wider audience, a much bigger buyer pot, and allowing people to buy in a more sustainable way, allowing you opportunities in management and operations. This is what we're talking about over here. The total opportunity is so big, and the needed from you today is very little. I'll give you an example. You can currently launch a tokenization platform without you really developing that kind of platform. You can, we launched with our partners, Block Square. So Arms and McGregor and Block Square a few months ago launched a tokenization platform linked to DeFi. You can contact us today, for example, or others, because I'm sure there's others providing the same service. We're more advanced, and we're linked to DeFi through a DeFi protocol, which gives you an advantage. However, our subject here is that you would be able to get all of the technology white labeled for you, and you would be able to use that. And you would be able to tokenize your product and all your buildings, if you have 1,000 buildings, and whatever of them you would like to tokenize easily. It would take you a few weeks rather than a few years. The hidden parts, the unknowns in it, in the development in general, are not there. Everything in it is visible today because it's a tested, tried system. So what you are able to do is you're able to, with thousands of dollars rather than millions, with few weeks rather than few years, launch your own platform or tokenize your project on our platform. And you'll be able to do that. Now, will you be able to fund $100 million project in 2 weeks from DeFi today? I don't believe so. At least a real estate project today through the liquidity pools available. Yet the more power is put, the more assets are put into that ecosystem, the stronger it is, the more stable it is, and the bigger it is, and the bigger possibilities there are past that point. So what you need to do is look seriously at how would you be able to make money of including tokenization into your plan for 2022 if you don't have it in your plan on 2021. You need to start talking to the regulator in your city, because the regulator is regularly supported thought-wise and empowered by you, as well as the other way around. You would need to start talking to all stakeholders to make sure that they embrace what you embrace, and that will give you an impact like no other. Now, whenever we talk fear of the change, fear of that would affect communities in a very non-expected way, speculation will increase. I don't believe so. I believe speculation will decrease. Now you can stop the ability of speculative practices or eliminate it, arbitrage trading and the ability to trade a token overnight every day, and you're able to put costs related to that, some limitations on that. You're able to do all of those. Your interest in making sure that everything is KYC, AML compliant, you are able to do so. And we do so today. So you don't have the risks that you think you do have. You just do not probably or have not given the opportunity, the time and energy it needs to understand properly the possibilities behind it. if you're a regulator, start legislating for tomorrow. If you're a legislator, there is many institutions, organizations. I'm part of FIBRI. I'm the regional chair in UAE of FIBRI. FIBRI is the foundation of international real estate and blockchain expertise, or blockchain and real estate expertise. You can talk to us, and we will be more than happy to furnish you with all knowledge that we do have and accumulate from parties from all over the world. Because one John in the US and one Hakim in Europe create a new thought, it goes into our industry report probably. If not, it's discussed in one of the sessions, and that accumulation of knowledge can impact you and can help you do a better approach to the tech that you're currently either approaching with a stick or worried about. I hope I didn't bore you. I forgot to tell you this time that I'm with you online. So please feel free to put in all your questions. If you're watching this as a recording later on, after the conference occurs, feel free to contact me at any moment of time through makremhani.com. Thank you again for UNISO. Well done for Reconnect. And I hope that this grows, and I hope that every one of you is benefiting from that. Don't worry, there's no negative input about Real Estate 6.0, tokenization, or DeFi. In my view, every input is positive because we only are able to strengthen the idea. Again, if I can't prove an idea to you, then most probably, unless you don't want to have that proven to you, most probably that idea is not strong enough. So what I will do is I will rethink it over, and most of the time either strengthen it or come up with a correction for it, or a new idea, or scrap it. So thank you all for being with us. I hope we didn't bore you, and I hope that you benefit of this. I have a write-up coming, a white paper about this subject, and you can see it soon, and I hope that that's value as well.